I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one. Good for grounding. I'm recording already.
Perfect. We entered the time portal, baby, where time is
Yeah.
illusory, it doesn't exist.
Welcome to Openly Spoken, the podcast to help you show up, speak out, and be seen. Here you'll get to eavesdrop on connected women's conversations about self-love, confidence, healing, relationships, creativity, and more. I'm your host, Celia Antonio, and I am your guide to getting you grounded into your body, feeling your full spectrum of emotion, and expanding your fullest self-expression. I also pop in here from time to time with solo episodes where I give you tips, tricks, and resources like meditations, visualizations, and all the things to get you grounded, to get you to feel, to get you to alchemize, and to get you to expand and express yourself fully. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I invite you to now put your hands on your heart, take a deep breath, set a tone for how you want to be as you show up for this podcast, take what resonates in this podcast, leave out what doesn't resonate, and take some time to reflect and to contemplate. And if there's anything in the podcast you want to chat about, you can always reach out to me on Instagram at selfexpressbabe. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome back to Openly Spoken. My name is Celia and I'm so grateful that you hit play on my audio creation today or my YouTube video today. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking with my friend Whitney Barron, who is a mother of two, a stepmother of one, and we're going to be talking about raising strong daughters. Whitney is a wife to what to me sounds like an incredible father from our past conversations, and you're also going to hear some evidence of that today as we talk about raising strong daughters. Whitney is on a grand journey into seeking all the joy that life has to offer and owning who she is, even though it differs from the quote norm around the area where she lives in the south of the US. And I thought this topic was perfect to talk about now and today specifically, and to release and publish this episode today with International Women's Day being tomorrow. And also be on the lookout tomorrow for another episode, because I'm going to be releasing a compilation episode of some of my past guests here and people you haven't heard yet because I haven't published the episodes, answering a question to what is their favorite part of womanhood. So I kind of put all of those together into a little compilation, and I thought it would be really cute to post that tomorrow for Women's Day. So be on the lookout for that. And lastly, before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to share with you my breast massage and embodiment course. It's called Heart Magic. You will want to be in this space if you want a deeper connection to your breasts and confidence regarding your boobs, if you are a human who has boobs, and if you want a deeper connection to your heart space, a deeper connection to your truth, and the unapologetic confidence to bring that truth to the world. Heart Magic is a very healing space with personal practices to do on your own, deep dive journaling content. You'll also have access to recordings from our live held group embodiment sessions, and you're getting lifetime access to everything. So within there is there's all the guidance to starting your own breast massage practice. I do offer a practice as well that's about 20 minutes, and you get a journal that's kind of designed to do the practice every day for 11 days and do the journaling afterwards. And then I also had some group embodiment sessions, because I feel like embodiment is a very good way to release what is coming up. And I really wanted to give everyone that was in the space all of the tools that they could possibly need to move through the healing. So that's why there's embodiment sessions in there. We also had some women's healing circles. Those were unrecorded. I might do another one in the future, depending on how many new students we get in. So once there's a group of new people, a significant amount of newer people, then there would totally be a group call that's unrecorded, so we can all have a women's circle. That would be really fun. I will say about the lifetime access, to really jump on this, like I know that I'm like biased because it's something that I've created and that I'm offering with my business. But I am currently also, like, I wanted to share, I'm currently in a coaching certification program from Layla Martin, and I'm in her 2023 cohort of her sex, love, and relationship coaching program. And this means that for sure Heart Magic is going to have some like extra stuff in there. I've actually already been like adding bonuses and updating stuff and adding extra things in since I launched this originally, which I launched it in October of 2022. I'm currently in Layla Martin's coaching program, so yeah, a little life update thrown into this invitation. But if you're interested in Heart Magic, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes down below. You can also use the code podcast for $30 off. There's a link in the show notes. I would love to have you in there. If you have any questions about it first, feel free to reach out to me. You see my Instagram below, and you can also contact me on my website. All right, without further rambling, let's get into our conversation about raising strong daughters with Whitney Barron.
We live in the South, so things are still very like traditional, by the book. I did not go by the book.
Yeah.
I feel like I was a result of what be like wanted out of people from that generation. Like I fell for everything, like hook, line, and sinker. I was just a product of 90s MTV bull crap, So that originally was like my biggest goal, was like not let that happen to my girls, right? Like I don't want them to think that they need validation because a guy liking them is validation. A guy wanting to sleep with them is validation. Like that's so far from it,
Yeah.
And that you've got you as a woman, you are a vessel, a powerful force. You're a portal to, the other world. So it's like you bring life into the world. There's so much that by keeping us in that box, it keeps us from accessing, So.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like we're deliberately kept away from that, because if like once we know it and once we connect with that and we find that to be true, like there's no getting us to conform to anything. Right?
There's no turning back.
Yeah.
You can't put it back in the box.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like once you realize that it works, that it's real and you feel it, then there's no conforming at that point.
Yeah. I'm so curious to know, like, I'm not sure if this relates to our topic at all, but like, this is what's popping into my mind. So I guess this is what I'm supposed to ask you. So I think it was 3 years ago now, Cardi B came out with a song called WAP. And I'm so curious to know what your like initial reaction to that song was.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Like as a mom, I'm like, oh, I can tell you, I don't even know. Like, I don't know all the words to the song. I don't even think I
neither do I.
Video.
Yeah,
but
I've seen the video, but I don't know all the words.
I don't know her message behind the song. I know that initially the lyrics, like I said, it's not exactly what I want my kids listening to by any stretch of the imagination, but that's not because I'm like, oh, words are bad, this is it's more, I want them listening to things that, which they're still not on board with, but like, my like super affirmation-y music,
like
like
Tony Jones,
like that.
Tony Jones or Tori
For
Jones?
Me,
Tony
for
Jones,
me,
I think.
it's like activation, vibration, I don't know all the names of all the people. I just like put it on like my like radio setting or whatever, like pick a song, and then
Hmm.
it just sits there and just plays all of that like high vibe music.
I love that.
So they don't they buy in they don't buy into everything that I tell them yet. It's like they're like, mom, yeah,
Yeah.
mom's a little, yeah. But they see that things work. So
Yeah.
for them, that's when they're like, yeah, I know. My words are spells. Yes, I know. Don't talk bad to myself.
Yeah.
And speak what I want into existence. They definitely are big on affirmations and you know
Hmm.
the whole my words are spells deal.
Yeah. I
But
love
yeah,
that
so
piece
that's all.
about,
It was just crazy.
yeah. 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 I asked because like when that song first came out, I was absolutely disgusted and so triggered. And
Hmm.
I also was thinking about like, young girls are listening to this and young boys are listening to this. And like
Hmm.
my initial reaction, I was like, wow, I feel like those like elderly people that were around when like rock and roll came out, and they were like, those dang kids. Like that's exactly how I
Yes,
felt. And I don't know if you know this, but like Kids Bop has their own version of that song. It's called
I did not know.
it's called Wings and Pizza, and it's all about food. And they're like, put those rolls in my mouth.
Get out.
I'm
Get.
serious.
That is so gross.
I know it's so gross. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Oh,
Another reason
oh,
why
that's
why I
good.
asked too is like I was super triggered at first, but it ended up kind of initiating me diving into that part of myself, like why am I not so comfortable with sexuality, and like why does that have to be gross? Like there's songs by like 50 Cent called The Magic Stick, and like no one was outraged over that. And there's like so many songs about like male genitalia and no one's outraged about that. Um so like I kind of went from like disgusted to like, yeah, the song is great. I'm not going to be listening to it because it's just not. I love Cardi B for like how like powerfully she is herself. I think I don't know if her persona is like made up by the media, because that could be a thing. Um like I like, but like when I would see her before, because I used to follow her on Instagram, I'm like, wow, she's like so being herself, and it's like triggering, and good for her for doing that, and I like respect that. I'm just not such a great fan of her music. So then I went like to that opposite side of like, yeah, the song's great, the song's fine, and now I'm finding myself a little bit in the middle. there's this um there's this book that just came into my awareness that it existed, that came out in August of this year, so it came out this summer, called it's by an author named Louise Perry, and I think she called it like The Argument Against the Sexual Liberation or something like that. And it's like a
Mm-hmm.
counter argument to all of what we're seeing on Instagram of like all these women being like so open and liberated. And I saw a few interviews with her, and like I disagreed with a lot of her stuff, but with a few things I agreed. So I'm like, let me get this book, because like it's probably going to be a totally different view than I have. And I want that. Like I want to really like challenge myself and like think about it, because I think there's good, and I don't want to say the word bad. I don't like the word bad. Like I feel like there's empowering and disempowering things when it comes to what's happening in the world, and even what's happening with like how you said you're a product of like MTV, and like what we saw on MTV, like it was, on one side it was like freeing of like, yeah, you can be yourself and do whatever you want, but on another side it was like a little too much at sometimes.
Well, what it was for me, it was that it's like, oh, you're liberated, right? Sleep with whoever you want, do this,
Hmm.
go crazy,
Hmm.
like that's freedom. But what it really is entrapment, and it's
Yeah.
because the casual sex versus having sex within a sacred union, someone that you love and respect and that you are okay with connecting souls with that person,
Hmm.
that's one thing. But then like when you're absorbing all of this other person's horrible energy and past traumas of their past partners, and it's just this like never ending cycle of like bad. And I feel like that's why a lot of people get stuck in a downward spiral and like a negative mindset is from that. But that was definitely me, for sure.
Yeah, same. I wish I would have known like once I was older and I learned about how like you definitely absorb your partner's energy, because like our body is receiving, like you're absorbing their energy, and you absorb all of their karma and their energy and all of their, like, if they're not in a good place mentally, like you're absorbing all of that. Like when I discovered that, I was like, "Oh, wow, like I wish my mom would have told me this when I was growing up. Like I would have been way more discerning with my partners." And
Yeah,
so yeah, that can kind of loop us back into the
for sure.
raising strong women topic.
Hmm. Yeah, because I mean that was in the sex talk I have with my oldest, and also
Hmm.
with my youngest as well. I don't keep anything off of the table when talking to them about sex and sexuality and what you choose to do with your body.
Hmm.
Um, because for me, not knowing as a kid, that just, for me, it made me more curious.
Yeah,
I'm like,
same.
oh, why are they hiding it? What are they hiding? Like,
And then you're like, that
so
looks fun. I want to do that.
look at all the attention she's getting. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like they're having so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and it's not, and I'm not coming at this from, because like growing up in a Christian based family, it was like, you don't do this because it's bad and you're going to go burn in hell. And
Hmm.
that's why you wait till you're married, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
go with the flow, if you will. So it's like, it's, uh, this is coming at it from the perspective of like my daughter's soul and and beyond. It's like their souls, what they get to teach their children if they choose to have children, what they share with their friends, you know, spread these messages of what we should be at our core, like returning to what we've always been.
Mm.
So I've gotten a little off there, but we were talking about, I want to go back to where we were right before this. I'm trying to think of where we were.
With
Mm,
liberated sexuality.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah, and talking to them about sex. And so
Yeah.
I've literally, like, I've just all out there. And I've had my youngest, I'm trying to think of some questions she asked me. She's asked me some, what to me sounds like funny questions, but it's like, oh, well, yeah, you don't know that, right? So it's like, I just answer it honestly because I'm not trying
Mm.
to, I feel like you protect them more by telling them everything.
Yeah, because they're gonna find out from someone else if you don't tell them.
Yeah, right. And the internet, and it was, yeah, it had something to do with periods and boys having real periods where they actually bled and whatnot and something like that. And I was like, not exactly. I was like, they have their own cycles, everyone has their own cycles,
Hmm.
but I was like, no, it's not the same as us. And she hasn't had her period yet. She hasn't started. So
Hmm.
she's always like on the brink, like looking out for it. She'll like have like some weird stomach cramps, and she's like, oh, I think I'm about to start my period. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. If you do, we're ready. You're ready.
Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I love that. I love that you're
Yeah.
doing that. Because like for me when I was a girl, like I feel like I didn't have that guidance like at all. And I remember when I got my
Right.
first period, I was like terrified to tell my mom.
Yep.
I was like so terrified, and I had to like end up telling her because like putting tissue paper in my underwear was just not working, and I'm like, I need some other stuff.
Hmm.
I need help.
Yeah. I know. It's so terrible. Yeah. She's got a whole little kit in her backpack. She's
Oh,
had
that's
it since like
awesome.
last year because you just never know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, she's ready. But it's still important to me because, like you said, you didn't have that growing up. I didn't have that growing up either.
Yeah.
I just feel like my mom just didn't know to talk to me about these things. You know, it's like she
Mm-hmm.
just. But why didn't she know? Right? Probably because her mom didn't talk to her about it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so it's
Yeah.
this big. It's just this cycle because way back when we didn't talk about these things. It's like
Mm-hmm.
inappropriate, not ladylike. You guys stay
Mm-hmm.
away from. And so now we're returning to tribes of women, circles. So it's just, and we don't have to be afraid to do it anymore. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not going to get burned at the stake. Some
Yeah.
people may come at us on social media, but okay, big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So you go do you, we will do us.
Yeah. And that all, I mean, we're so
That's
lucky
it.
we can say that because it's not like that everywhere in the world still, which is insane to think about. Like right now,
That
what's happening in
so
Iran,
huge.
like whenever I see videos or watch articles and like I start crying and then like I put my phone down, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to just put my phone down and like not
Yeah.
have a part in it, like not have to worry about it. And that's like such a privilege. And like I almost feel bad that I have that. So
Yeah.
like, but I think in like, yes, we definitely have more freedoms in the country we live. And I think that leaves like then a ripple effect because if we didn't have that and we saw what was happening in Iran, we wouldn't feel so called to share it and to talk about it and to be like, all right, where can we donate? Who can we talk to? Like, what can we do? Like, if we were still oppressed here, we would just be like, oh, that's happening. Like, I can't, got it. Ignore it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You just sympathize with them because you're in the
Yeah.
same situation. But we're in a place where we can help.
Mm-hmm.
And by being aware, also, being aware, the more people that become aware and awake and become um, realize of the powers that they hold within themselves, then that also helps.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Mhm.
So when do you think this like I don't know, these like decisions of like what to talk to your daughters about and all of that, like was that something that you thought of like as you were pregnant because like of the upbringing you had and you're like, I don't want this for my children? Or like was it something that just kind of like unflowed naturally? Like what was your, I guess, plan?
So I didn't have a plan. I was a young mom.
Hmm.
Callie, my 15-year-old, I think I had her at 20.
Hmm.
I got married at 19.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah. And so even realized that I was not giving them my best
Mm,
until um, until I did a lot of healing myself
mm,
because I was still stuck in that cycle of the agenda that the patriarchy, for lack of a better word, has
mhm,
created for women. So I was going to create two more women just like I had brought up
mm. Yeah.
until that occurred. Till I woke up, and I do credit. Oh, my husband gave me the space to do that.
Oh yeah,
At
we've
the
talked
time, he was
about
my
this
boyfriend.
before. Yeah, we've
Hmm.
talked about
Yeah,
this before. That's
yeah.
amazing.
He gave me that space, and once that occurred, I was like, okay, we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Like, what does that look like? You know,
Hmm.
because there would be things. I can't think of an example right now. It may come to me later, but I would do something and he would be like, what are you doing? He was like, they are like, you don't, or like making them apologize for something that like they didn't really, not as that. So it's like when you bump into somebody in the store and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, but you shouldn't really apologize. Like maybe an excuse me or something, like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever, you know, like, and that's not exactly what happened, but it's like that kind of thing where it's like programmed into you, like be a nice girl, right? Be a
Yeah.
sweet little
Yeah.
girl, like, oh, you're supposed to be this way. And him, like, he's like, no, we're not doing
Yeah.
that. You know, he was like, you don't want them to end up that way. You know, he's like, that's not. So he
Yeah.
really, really, you know, impacted the parenting of, or like my view of what we needed to do for parenting the girls, because the goal is to make sure that they're strong and can say no without an explanation, say yes when they have a full body yes, you know, like dress how they want without feeling insecure. I want them to be so secure in themselves and what they are doing in the world, knowing that like they're on their path. So,
Do you ever run into blocks with that piece of like wanting them to feel secure with themselves just because of like, I know that when you're a teenager, your brain apparently isn't like fully formed yet, and there is a little bit more pressure to like fit in with the people at school or with the people in extracurricular activities or anything. So do you ever run into things like that?
so we have, and I feel like when they were younger, it was more important to them to go with the flow and like the trends and what everyone's doing. Callie, my 15-year-old, she's a sophomore in high school. I honestly feel and believe that she is past that.
That's awesome.
Like she still likes trends in some fashion trends and stuff, but as far as her personality and maybe her morals, I feel like she's in her own. Now, Chloe being in middle school, she's
Middle
gotten
school is
so
hard.
spicy. She's gotten so
Spicy.
spicy. Yes. She'll be somewhere with friends and she'll say something, and my girlfriends look at me. They're like, "You got your hands full right now, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I do." You know, she is not. She is so outspoken, and I love that about her. But sometimes I'll be like, I'm your mom. Like, don't come at me like that, please." You know, like, come on. You know, it's like, but, and she's benefiting from this this form of like strong woman raising, you know, way longer than Callie. So she's had it way more, you know.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
But yeah,
So we'll see how she'll be when she's a sophomore in high school.
I know.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I think this is amazing because like I think people don't realize like what a kind of like head start this gives you in life when you get this kind of like strong foundation at home. Because when you don't get the strong foundation at home, you're not super clear on like who you are. And here you are like 17 or even 16 being asked to decide what you're going to study in college and do for the rest of your life. And like it's really important at that age to have a strong, solid like foundation and like what is you and like what do you believe in and like having your own thoughts and opinions and stuff, because like that, I think that just really sets you up to have a fulfilling life because then you're following your heart instead of like always second guessing and questioning your decisions and essentially like prolonging, I guess, your own happiness, and then hopefully like not everyone gets to have a moment where they get to like you said with you, how you grew up and you had this moment where you like woke up, and your husband as well, he's like, what an amazing dad, where he's like, no, we don't want to raise him like that. Like, I've never heard that before. I'm not saying that men like this don't exist. I'm sure my husband will be the same. I'm sure my husband will be the same. He was raised by a single mom and a sister, so he's like a total feminist. But yeah, that's amazing, because my own understanding of a dad based on the stepdad that raised me was the complete opposite. It was like, no, women be quiet and speak when spoken to. Like, no.
Oh
So I
gosh,
love
yeah.
hearing this. That yeah. I know it's like not ideal, but like I'm very grateful for how I was raised, and I'm grateful for everything that I've ever been through in my whole life, even the things that were difficult and hard, because it molded me into who I am, and it gave me more of like for when I have kids, like I feel like it gives you more wisdom, I guess. What would
Oh yeah.
you call it with like how you were raised? Like, do you feel like it gave you more wisdom?
Oh, for sure, because I know what not to do. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost it, like verbatim. It's like
Yeah.
I I sometimes reflect and I'm like, how would like me as a parent now, like how would I have handled myself as a teenager? And that's like really hard to
Yeah.
put yourself in that position because you love yourself so much, and it's like it's the same, almost, it's the same as like a motherly love, but putting yourself in the perspective of mothering yourself, which I basically did whenever I went through like the waking up process.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's very strange to look at from that perspective, because I say that I would do things differently, of course, but I'm like, would I have? Because I was very, very headstrong. I was almost like, and so it's, instead of saying like I wish it wouldn't have happened, just thinking from the perspective of like, how would I have, parented myself? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know it would have been a struggle.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that my girls have had a head start on this. Like you said, it's like and I see girls in their classes, especially like, well, I mean, in both. I was going to say especially in high school, but
Mm-hmm.
honestly, in both. I mean, kids have changed so much, and they're just so much more mature as far as like sexuality goes.
That's
In
scary.
modern days, and it is, because I mean, my youngest was like talking about porn and stuff. She's like, they're talking about this and that. I'm like, what's this? And like, what's a hooker? And I'm like, Lord, I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. And so, I mean, that was like last year, I think. So I honestly think it may have been fifth grade.
Wow, that's crazy.
But yeah, I know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so it's gonna be like that,
Yeah.
like, so.
Yeah, it's because they have like social media and the internet. They have like so much more access to information. Like, I remember I never even knew the I guess mechanics of sexuality until I was 13, and it was like explained in my science class. And I was like,
Okay.
what? You put that in where? Why would you want to do that? That sounds like it would hurt. Like, I remember being like, that sounds
Yeah.
horrible.
And everything sounds so weird at that age too. And like
Yeah.
everything's just like funny to kids, it's like, you're like, ew, gross, but then you're like, But so what's the big deal about it? Like, what's the
Yeah.
deal? Why is it such a secret?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um,
So I have these 3 questions I like to ask everyone towards the end. But before we get into that, is there anything else that you want to kind of share or say about raising strong women?
so I would say probably like the basics, like the things that we want instilled in the girls, but then also like I want to instill in myself. Like I share
Mm,
it with my friends and anyone that I can, like that's relevant, So it's like not apologizing for everything, like you don't have to apologize to someone unnecessarily, but we are taught and conditioned to do that so much.
yeah.
So that's a big one for us and for me as a person. I still do it. I catch myself doing it sometimes,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, oh, no, yeah, this is not something we apologize for, you know,
Yeah.
and then no without an explanation. Like, you don't have to say why you're saying no. It's conditioned to be so rude
Mm.
and bitchy. But I mean, this goes for guys too. Like, guys should be doing this as well. Like, people
Yeah.
should be teaching their sons this as well,
Oh, yeah,
not
for
just
sure.
women. But I
Mhm.
mean, it's like, you don't, as long so a guy asks you out on a date and you don't really like him like that, right? And he's like, "Hey, you want to go out on Monday night to this ball game?" Okay. No, I have to watch someone's dog, right? I have to watch my best friend's dog that night. Okay, well, what about Tuesday?
Uh,
Because I got tickets for Tuesday too. Oh, well, Tuesday I have to do my laundry. I don't know, right? So then, okay, well, what about Wednesday? Wednesday we can go to dinner, and so then it just becomes this. As long as you're still talking, you're still in negotiation.
yeah.
So a
Mhm.
flat out no is all you need. And if they ask why, you don't have to give them a reason. You don't owe them
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're taught that it's rude, you
Mhm.
know. But if they don't just take your no,
Mhm.
it's,
Then that's rude. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
And also, like, it's almost more rude to, like, say no and make up an excuse because then you're leading this person on instead of being honest about, like, "I'm just not interested in dating you." Like, no hard
yeah,
feelings. I'm just not interested.
yeah. And I mean, and you can say that as well, and they may take that and they may not, but that's on them at that point. Like, you've already said your piece that
Mhm.
you needed to say. So
Yeah.
those are two really huge ones, and just making decisions for yourself instead of for others or what you think they want you to do.
Mhm.
Because I feel like that happens a lot with children and parents.
Mhm.
Like, you'll decide, like the kids will decide to do something because they think that's what their parents want them to do.
Mm.
Like a certain career path, or um, that's the biggest one for me that I can think of right now. Or maybe go to a certain college, or just marry a certain kind of person, or anything. Like, you don't,
Mhm.
like, within your, like, sometimes, I mean, I guess some kids are still kind of like betrothed, or their parents still pick their
Yeah.
spouses. That's
I know.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's
That
like, this is
exists.
a good
That
family, you will marry them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's wild. That exists in my family. My stepdad is from Pakistan and his sister, her marriage was arranged. Like the both parents
I
like
completely
met.
forgot that just came through for me to mention, but I completely forgot that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like those parents just met and they like both had, kids that were single and they like put them together. And
Wild.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure in some instances because I definitely have I definitely have had aunts and uncles who had arranged marriages and they were very happy. Like they like learned
Mhm.
to to choose to love each other and choose to get to know each other, but that's not the case with most of the ones I've seen in my family, at least. And yeah, I mean, I think that's very outdated, and it's very like, it probably made sense back in medieval times when like you had to, I guess, make sure that your daughter would be taken care of financially because there was only super rich or poor. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's
And alliances and whatnot, so
yeah, and sometimes I think it
crazy.
was like a business decision as well, That's so
Hmm.
weird.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very, very
But
strange.
then some people think it's weird to get married for romance because yeah, like it's like even the way that's my most like favorite thing about being human is like all the things that you and I believe to be true. Like there are people out there who are like, wow, that's so weird. Like, why would they think that? It's so fascinating to me. Like that's why
I know.
I think that's why one of my favorite like genres of things to watch is like I love watching things of like cults and like religions,
Hmm.
like back when before streaming service when we still had like cable and stuff. Like I used to watch the shows about like people who were Amish or people who were like, I love watching religious, like how people like different ways of living life, basically, like even people in
Yeah,
tribes. Like I love that, it's so fascinating to me.
it is. It's very cool.
So anyways, like we like diverged a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. I had another thing and then it went away. But I think we've hit some of the strongest points. It's just those things like can make your life easier as a
Yeah.
human,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're operating from your truth and your honesty. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what this all comes down to,
mhm,
like allowing your children, no matter what gender they are, to be connected with their truth and live out of that. That's the way to raise a strong human being. I love that.
absolutely. Hmm. And knowing that you're as parents, like we always have their back, like we support them fully. That
Hmm.
is one thing that I noticed Morgan, that is my stepdaughter, always thanks her dad for is she's like, in almost every birthday card, every Father's Day card, it's, thank you for always supporting me. Thank you for always having my back. Thank you for always
Oh,
being there for me. And it's not empty words, it's true, you know.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a big takeaway I want the girls to, have on their upbringing as well, is being like, you know what, like they always have my back, like
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. And that's super important as a parent because that, like, you're putting your own, I guess, like ego aside because you're choosing to have, like, when you're choosing to have a baby, like, you don't get to mold them into who you want them to be. Like, they're their own person. And not enough people understand that. And I'm sure you can totally relate, like, with where you grew up. Like, when you grow up somewhere that's super religious, like if your child tells you that they're gay and then they decide like, all right, you don't live here anymore. I really don't understand that. Especially like
Mhm.
especially from like the mother's point of view. Like you grew that human in your body for 9 months and now you're going to tell them
I know.
like they're not welcome in your home. Like this could be a whole nother podcast episode.
I know. That is absolutely insane. It is another like mindset for me. Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
do not compute, do not relate.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm. I bet.
and of course, like we said before, not just here, like there's people that can't
Everywhere.
express their
Yeah.
sexuality everywhere. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's a
Cool.
lot of work to be done.
So one of the questions I ask everyone is, what does self-love mean to you?
Ooh, this is huge because I like this summer really honestly feel like I only experienced feeling self-love for like the first time, because I just broke down one morning. I was laying in bed. I kind of meditate in bed. Like I'll wake up and then I'll just start thinking and doing like my gratitude and all of that. And then sometimes it just sort of slips into a meditation. And I was doing that, and I told myself, I was like, I love you. And I was like, you mean so much to me. And I just started bawling and like holding myself and just laying there and being like, and just repeating that to myself, like, oh my God, like this is what self-love feels like. Holy crap, you know, like this is it. And so, and I mean, like I've like liked myself, like been like totally cool with myself, you know, but like I don't know that I'd felt that. I know I haven't. So that was so huge for me. I had a cacao ceremony for the first time like a few days before. I think that had a lot to do with it. But then also we were in towards the end of medicine use as well. And so things were just really clicking and falling into place. And when that happened, I was just like, wow, that's what this is. But so what does it mean to me? The most raw and exposed, but yet comfortable about it, like in in your body. You know, it's like you are to where there's not even anything you want to hide from yourself. You know, it's like it's all out there. It's just laid out, and you love every single piece about it. There's nothing you change. I think that's my version.
That's beautiful.
I'm like all teary because it's so
I
like
teared a little bit
so
too
present.
when you were
I'm like, it's so present, and it's such a beautiful thing. And that's what I want for everyone.
Yeah that's why I focus on self-love with my work. Like once I like I started with graphic design, and once I had like clients who like had their graphic design stuff but still weren't showing up on social media, and I coached them, and I realized, you know, like the deeper layer behind everything is self-love. Like if even if we had like political leaders who love themselves more, we'd live in a completely different world. Completely different. And like what kind of bothers me about self-love is like the way it's communicated most times is like face masks, bubble bath, go shopping for yourself. Like that, it's a part of it, but it's not like that deep self-acceptance of, like you said, like it's raw, it's vulnerable, it's like probably ugly at sometimes, but like you still see that and you're like, I love this, I wouldn't change it, and I accept it, and it's totally okay with me. And I want that for every human as well.
For sure.
So the next question is, what makes you feel the most grounded?
It's being out in nature, but with my family. We do spend almost every weekend like out in the woods in some way. So, you know, I feel very blessed because we do have that opportunity. We have one of the largest national forests. I think it's the largest one in the state of Florida, the Blackwater River National Forest, I believe. And I mean, the girls have been going out there ever since they were little, you know. So
that's amazing.
And there's, you know, clear freshwater creeks, and there's pine trees and oak trees and animals, and it's just, that's where you can just really just, as soon as you get there, you just feel different, you know. So that's where I feel it the most. But then, of course, like when you need to feel grounded at home, you just go outside, you go stand in the dirt, you know, you get some good, you know, good grounding in there. My husband actually, he saw the thing on TikTok with the it has to do with tape. I think it's like some kind of metallic tape and like cords, and you like run it outside and you run it to your mattress or something. And he's like, oh, we're doing that. We're doing that.
So
He's
that
like,
your
exactly.
mattress is
So you're like
connected to
ground.
outside.
So you, yeah, so you like ground while you sleep or something, because you know how we used to sleep on the dirt, and like now we don't anymore. So I was like, we'll see.
That's so
I'm like,
funny.
I don't know. This could be one of those. This could be one of those TikTok tricks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So one more question and then we'll dive into like where people can find you and connect with you.
Okay.
It's my favorite question. What is your favorite part about being a woman?
For me, it is the ability to be a mother, because I feel like without that, I wouldn't have had the transformation that I had.
Yeah.
The perspective that it gave me. And more recently, finding out all of the inner workings of how our bodies are connected to like other realms, you know. Just because it's like what we do, what we can do is so powerful. I know that, you know, men have their own thing, you know, but for us, it's like we literally have the ability to bring other lives into this world. And man, I don't know that it gets better than that. But I mean, I know there's plenty of people, and I honor people's decisions to not have children, you know. But for me personally, that's my that's it for me.
Birth sounds like a huge initiation and a huge like invitation to just surrender and let go, like while it's happening. And I'm
For
excited
sure.
for it. I used to be terrified of birth, and now I'm like, I want to push a human being out.
Yes, I know.
I'm like, I'm gonna do
I
it.
know.
So for
And I want
everyone,
that for my girls too.
yeah,
Like I want them to be able to approach birth differently than it was presented to me. You know,
yeah,
like really only had like two options. It's like completely all natural, and then you have like the hospital-y version, but they don't tell you about all the other versions in between, like that you can have home births, and
yeah,
you
I
know
didn't
that you
even
don't
know.
even yeah, I know. It's like there's so much to it.
Yeah.
And I want that for them. I want them to know all their options.
It's crazy, like when you say that, it's crazy how many parts of being in a female body is like capitalized on, you know? It's like going to the hospital and giving birth. It's a I don't know how much it is, but I know that it's a huge bill. It's a huge bill, and it's like insane because like if you compare it to having a doula or a midwife and just being at home, and something that I didn't even hear about until this year was free birth, where it's just you by yourself. Like,
wow.
that is brave. Like,
It
that's
is.
free. You don't have to pay for that.
No. And it's like, and it's just completely intuitive, right? It's like,
Yeah. I'm sure there's preparation to do before that.
oh yeah.
Like lots of it.
Oh gosh, yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like even going deeper with like how being in a female body is so capitalized on like all our products for our cycles, makeup, hair, like fashion, like there's so many industries that profit so much, and I'm sure it's like a huge significant difference, like how much the fashion industry profits off of people who identify as female versus people who identify as male, and like makeup as well. I know that makeup is now like a little bit more accepted for men to wear. I know that there's who's that one rapper that likes to wear makeup? I think it's Post Malone. I think he wears like eyeliner and nail polish and stuff. And I love that there's I love that there's a questioning of like, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? And like, that's something I was never exposed to until I lived in New York City. I remember hearing about like gender fluid. I'm like, what's gender fluid? And then when someone explained to me, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And it's just, again, interesting, like how many different ways there is to live as humanity,
Right.
you know, with religion, with sexuality, with self-expression, with art, like with just so many different forms of like how we get to be ourselves and share that with the world or keep it to ourselves.
It's true. Whatever we decide to do.
Yeah.
It's
So
beautiful.
thank you. So for everyone who is tuning in, where can they find you online? How can they find out more about you?
Instagram is my main channel at the moment. It's soul_ascension, but it's like soul like the sun, SOL.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Ascension. Yeah. I am going to probably make a TikTok eventually, but I'm just right now, Instagram is where you'll find me.
Yeah. You're brave with the TikTok. I can't do TikTok. It's like the platform is so well designed that like the first time I downloaded it, I spent hours on it. I was like, I need to delete this. Like, this is not healthy for me. So yeah, you're brave. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Openly Spoken. I know that there's an abundance of content online, so I really appreciate you giving me your ears today. If this episode shifted something for you, please share this with a friend and/or write us a podcast review if you're listening to this on iTunes so that more people can find this. If anything shifted for you from this episode that you want to have a conversation about, I would love to hear from you. Just send me a DM over on Instagram at selfexpressbabe, and that is in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.